2 lessons. And I look up stuff regarding the afterlife and souls and soul contracts and stuff that I have absolutely no clue whether or not is real. But there are studies on these things, people taking it seriously, near-death experiences at UVA. And still don't have those answers, and I don't know if we're supposed to. I don't know if there's a plan. I don't know if there's anything. But part of me suspects that there's something going on. And if there is something going on, now everybody's got, they say, like a soul contract. They meaning certain believers in this thing. Okay, so I don't know. No idea. But let's pretend that that's true. So if that is true, that means that our souls signed up for a turbulent journey of some kind. Some kind of pain that we signed up for that is supposed to help us grow in a soulful kind of way. So I would be curious what percentage of kids who were heavily or even moderately traumatized become bitter, embittered, and angry and depressed versus the ones who maybe become more empathetic and more of a caregiver type. And I don't know those stats. And I don't know that it necessarily has to go to either extreme. Maybe there's a lot of in between. I'm sure that it's all over. And the news is going to have you believe that most of the traumatized just become psychos or narcissists. But I don't know that that's the majority. So, if I were to come up with an idea for a soul contract for myself, maybe it was to realize 2 things. Now that I'm on the other side of really bad mental health, now that I'm finally, healthy. I'm never going to be perfect, but I'm healthy. Maybe it's to realize that, 1, just a little tweak of a chemical or nutrient can completely change your world. And I don't want to go too deep into this. Robert Sapolsky, Sam Harris on the nature of free will. They don't believe it exists. But whether or not it does, you at least know that one little thing can completely change your view. And maybe your personality a bit. And definitely your personality. Values, that might take a little bit more, traumatic brain injury, something like that. But your personality changes through a little bit of a tweak. It can change drastically. So that's one thing. And that to me says, we're not really in control here. It's a lot of luck. Or there's a soul contract and things are planned out. Okay? Not a lot of control here. Not a lot to take credit for. and therefore not a lot to be ashamed of either. I'm not trying to go to the free will debate, but lesson number one. Lesson number two, now that I can relax and appreciate it, that whole hurt people, it doesn't really sink in. It's hard to have empathy for your enemies, the people who treat you like shit. Well, I'll say this. If you're depressed, different types of depression, you might have empathy, and a lot of it, towards the victimized, especially if your depression comes from like a PTSD related scenario. You might have a lot of empathy for the victimized. I don't know if you'll have a whole lot of empathy for those who victimize, for the perpetrators. But now that I'm on the other side, and I'm not trying to say I was a victim, compared to what other people have been through, and I'm not even trying to say that it was the trauma from my childhood that created my mental health problems. I'm sure it's part of the puzzle. But regardless, now that I'm well, I can relax and kind of let things go in a way where I actually am able to look at that guy who's being a complete asshole at the grocery store, or cutting me off while we're driving, or maybe not always in the moment, right? But being in a state of mind where I don't feel bitter and resentful and full of rage and constant suicidal ideation, being well makes me see the panoramic view and say that the people acting out are probably in a lot of pain. And I know this is redundant. A lot of people have said it. So this is nothing new. But I can actually relax and enjoy that idea now that I feel good, if that makes sense. Because I like that idea. It relieves a lot of, I guess, responsibility on my part to feel like I've got to change people, or, I don't know, be overly aggressive. So, take some weight, a little bit, not a lot. Mostly what's taking the weight off my shoulders is the health choices I'm making. But that idea, having empathy for the perpetrator or the criminal, I can actually enjoy that now. I can look back at some of the people and, I don't know if that bit of rage in me against them is ever going to fully dissipate, but it might help a little bit just to see them as people who are in a lot of pain. So I know I've acted in less than stellar ways because I've been in a lot of pain. And it's nearly impossible sometimes to get out of your own way when you're that unwell. You're gonna do shitty things. But you don't give a fuck if you live or die. So maybe they had maybe it wasn't the same exact pain, but they were in a lot of pain in one way or another if they acted in extreme ways. Or even in stupid ways. They were still there's still something going on there. And then for those who weren't in pain, they were just aloof. And they didn't mean it. So they just made a mistake. And that's pretty forgivable.